Hello and welcome to Comically Incompetent. My name is Doug.
And I'm Ben.
And this week we are still in quarantine, but it doesn't mean we're not going to try and give you a great show. So this week we're going to be talking about the Green Lantern. We're moving on to some DC after a very Marvel heavy month.
It was a good month.
It was a very good month. I had a lot of fun with that. But it'd be nice to kind of change it up a little bit. So we're going to talk about the Green Lantern. And the beer this week is going to be the Pale Ale from Sierra Nevada. We chose that because it is green, and we have both had it.
And it's pretty good, you know.
It's pretty good. So we'll talk about more. Yeah, we'll talk more about that at the end of the show. So Ben, why don't you dive into the Green Lantern?
All right, so I was trying to figure out how I was going to shoehorn this in. When I first picked out the character, I was like, I have to shoehorn this in, so I'm just going to lead in with it. In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware of the power, Green Lantern's light. Because I knew I wouldn't be able to shoehorn that in there, so I was like, I'm just going to lead with it. So for anyone that has read any comic books or seen any movies or television shows about the Green Lantern, they will know that that is constantly brought up. That's kind of their mantra, as it were be, and it has had one small change throughout the years. Sometimes they say blackest night, sometimes they say darkest night. I think that was like depending on the time, it was not the friendliest way to say that. So yeah, that's fun first trivia fact about this. So
well, either way, that does not come up naturally in conversation, so you did have to shoehorn that
it's
in.
Like how well, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah,
because that was like a whole point about when they changed that. So Green Lantern, first leading into it, Green Lantern, much like the Ghost Rider, is a title, not a character. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be focusing on Hal Jordan, which is the Green Lantern that everybody probably jumps to. Like the movie that they did in like 2011, that was a Hal Jordan one. The comic book cartoons that we grew up, those were all Hal Jordan. Just thought I'd lead that in, because what it leads up to is first, like Doug said, this is a DC character. He first came out in 1940s, but that was Alan Scott, not Hal Jordan. But I thought it was important to mention the first Green Lantern character goes back to the 40s. Hal Jordan, as we know him today, so started in 59. That was his first comic book. Then the 40s iteration was created by Martin Nodell, and the 59 iteration was created by John Broome and Gil Kane. And for people that may be familiar with Gil Kane, I believe he's done some of the DC characters that we covered. I believe he worked on the Penguin. If I am
okay.
not
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's a huge DC guy. He's one of those kind of like Stan Lee-esque people of, if you look at any other old characters, there's a really good chance that Bill Kane's going to be on there.
Yeah.
So first leading into physical appearance of this character, again, I'm going to be going into describing the suits. Green Lanterns have been all sorts of different aliens. They're like a super cool institution, as I'm going to call them. They're like galactic protectors. But they all wear a green skin-tight suit because as superheroes, we need our skin-tight. I think it's like astrally projected kind of suit because he kind of does everything with his ring. The ring is so cool. He wears a little tiny green mask that's about the size of 2 quarters covering his eyes. You know, because you have to protect your secret identity. Dude, I love those masks. DC does those a lot. Like Robin had a little like visor mask thing. They're a really big fan of those because they're sneaky.
The idea of it is so funny because like you can still see like 90% of their face. How does covering their eyes be like, oh, I don't know who that is now?
Well, and then think about like Superman. He just wears glasses. His secret disguise is glasses.
The Clark Kent thing, it's like, he's still this massive jack dude. Because he's wearing glasses, people are like, you're not Superman.
You're not Superman, you have glasses.
Superman doesn't need glasses.
He doesn't need glasses. You know, it's funny, it's accurate. And then he has the Green Lantern symbol on his chest and his little belt buckle. And for anyone that has seen it or has not seen it, it basically looks kind of like a shoehorn with a circle in the middle of it is kind of the best way I can describe it. Like a little shoehorn. Or horseshoe. Not a shoehorn, horseshoe. With a little circle in the middle of it. And he has his patented lantern ring, which is a green ring that he wears on his finger, which he can use to all sorts of shenanigans.
Yeah, that's the bulk of what I know of him. I also know a little bit about the John Stewart Green Lantern, which I'm sure you were going to mention at some point.
Hey, you never know.
But I know a little bit about Green Lantern, mostly because like there's the movie in 2011 that I'll get to. There's also the game Injustice where you can fight as Green Lantern and you kind of get an idea of what he can do in that game as well.
Well, and he was also in the 90s, early 2000s Justice League cartoon that we kind of grew up with. He was one of the quintessential members of the Justice League.
Yeah.
He's always like funny. He's like a very campy hero. He makes a lot of stupid jokes. I mean, he like projects ridiculous things sometimes. He'll just make like giant fists and punch people and stuff. So leading into Origin, because I always like to set the scene for these. So Hal's father, again focusing on Hal as this character, died in a plane crash when he was very young. He was an experimental test pilot for the U.S. military. As he aged, he decided that he wanted to become a test pilot as well. But he was reduced to being a plane engineer after assaulting an officer. He doesn't always play well with others. You know, Ryan Reynolds was a great cast for this guy because he perfectly fits that persona. He was mysteriously called to a crashed wreckage of an alien spaceship. Like, it was one of those where it wasn't like his boss called him up. He's like, hey, get over there. But it's like something's drawing him to this. A dying alien in it named Abin Sur, who is a name that you sometimes see thrown around in DC because he's one of the old Lanterns, which leads into the fact that he was the Earth Space Sector Protector. So the way that the Green Lanterns are broken up is they have space sectors, and each Lantern is assigned to a different space sector, and Earth is one of those. It's the primary intelligent life in the space sector that he was entrusted to. As he died, he entrusted Hal with his Lantern ring and the duty to become Earth's new space protector, or protector of Earth, depending on whatever way you want to phrase it. I think that's a pretty cool duty. Seems like a bit of a rash decision, but I guess if the options are he doesn't really have like a beacon to send back to his people, so he just grabbed the nearest guy. He's like, you do this, you're a good guy. But you know what? He was right. You know, he was this guy was going to go on to be one of the best Green Lanterns in Green Lantern history. I think I'm going to set a world record for the most time someone said lantern in 2020. Like, when's the last time I said that?
That might be true.
So from there, he went to a Green Lantern training corps, which is like where the Green Lanterns hone their skills, go through training, all that, on a planet called Oa, or OA. I'm not exactly sure about the pronunciation on that one. It's literally just OA. Originally, he landed there and he was considered a little bit of a joke. The Green Lanterns, I don't want to say they look down on Earth, but Earth is generally considered like a very primitive planet, which is something you see in a lot of comic books. Like, we're like a very underdeveloped situation when you compare us to things like the Green Lantern or the Kree or any astral cosmic kind of insights.
Like Krypton.
Yeah, like Krypton. It's like they can turn people into frisbees.
Yeah.
That was a good movie. Yeah, so he was originally considered to be a bit of a joke because he was like lesser, but as his adventures go on, he essentially becomes one of the strongest Green Lanterns in history. This guy has like a million different stories. It's kind of nice because we've had a couple heroes throughout like the Black Widow month. I loved the heroes, but they're kind of like, you know, they have their one or two story, and then it's like, oh, okay, and then from there it's kind of like the future is what it'll make of it. He has a billion different stories, most of them revolving around who. I'm curious if you've heard of this character, Sinestro. Have you ever heard of Sinestro?
I have heard of Sinestro, again, for the two reasons I named before, the 2011 film and the game Injustice. He's in both those. Yeah,
so he's essentially, he's like the quintessential person to interact with Green Lantern. Sometimes he's an enemy, sometimes he's an ally, but Sinestro was essentially his mentor. It was his first partner that he got assigned on when he went on missions. Kind of helped show him the ropes of the Green Lanterns. He eventually kind of went crazy, found out that rather than protecting the sector that he was in charge, he actually enslaved them and was using them to build machines for him and build better rings for him. Oh yeah, that's the other weird thing. The rings are just like things people build. Like, I always imagined they were like these mystic things. Like, no, it's just a machine, really. Like, you have this cool power with it, but you can just build them. You go in your backyard.
Yeah, like they're not as, I guess, special as sometimes it's made out to be.
Yeah, they're a lot more like Iron Man suit than they are Mjolnir.
Yeah.
That's like the nerdiest reference I have ever made.
Good comparison. Wrong comic books.
Yeah,
good
wrong
comparison.
They're much more like Penguin Umbrella than Superman muscles. There we go. That was a good one.
Well, nothing compares to Henry Cavill muscles.
Oh, man, dude. The Witcher, Superman, are you kidding me? He's pretty fantastic.
Oh,
okay.
Definitely.
Time for my favorite game show of the week. We're going to play Guess the Ridiculous List of Things that this guy can do.
Okay, I think I should do pretty well in this one.
Yeah, I think this guy you're going to get more up on him. I've also included a couple things in here that are like weaknesses, but that are superhero things about the Green Lantern. So also be on a lookout for those bad boys.
So I know that the ring can create almost anything that the wearer of the ring can think of. So like you said, if he wants to fight someone with a giant fist, he has to think of like a giant fist, and then the ring will create it, and he can use that. And so like the ring has the ability to create almost anything that they can think of to use, I guess, maybe in a fight or anything else, which then I think it also comes like it can project a suit onto him, which is why Ryan Reynolds had the CGI'd suit in the movie.
Oh, God, it was. Oh, they made a joke about that in Deadpool.
They did. I was going to get to that.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. But I was going to talk about that at the end. When I talk about the movies and like the media, but
Got you.
I know it can fly.
So actually, yes, you are accurate. I want to touch on one point, and you phrased it in a very interesting way, and I don't necessarily know if you did this on purpose or on accident, probably purely by chance, but you said that they can create basically anything they can think of, which is completely accurate.
No, I did that on purpose.
But to probably even more of an extent than I would guess that you meant it to go to. So some of the weirder things that it can do is, for instance, this is something that commonly gets brought up in comics and stuff, but the idea of like making things invisible by reflecting light, like cameras pointed at camera kind of thing. Kind of like tricks the sight. That's one of the other things the ring can do, is he can effectively turn himself invisible. But it's one of those things that not every lantern thinks to do that, and so a lot of them just get like wrecked in the process. But that's one of the other like cool things about the Green Lanterns, is there's so much creativity in the individual characters rather than just like, here's a book of the things you can do with your ring. They've used it to make like barriers, which you think of like, okay, you can make whatever you want. So you would think you could make a wall or something like that, but they've made like full dome barriers, stuff like that. They've got universal translators built in there, which is again one of those like, man, what a great plot device that you never have to explain how these aliens can talk to everyone. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's like in Doctor Who, the way they go around like the aliens being able to talk to each other is that the TARDIS has like a built-in translator that just surrounds whoever is like there.
That's a great show. I gotta put more time into Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's just they're like, how can we understand them? Oh, the TARDIS, and they're like, all right, move on. Like that's the explanation. You don't need to look into this anymore.
All right, what else do you think he's got? He's got a couple more here before we get to the weaknesses, which are interesting and hilarious.
I don't know. I thought I was gonna do so well because I kind of just thought it was the ring, but maybe not.
You're pretty darn close. There's only a couple more here that I got down that I'm like, make sure I want to get to those. One of them goes back to his origin story. One of them is on every superhero list. Two of them are on every superhero list we ever have.
Super strength.
He is super strong. Yeah, it's one of those. The ring surrounds you in the power, and so you can basically lift whatever the ring is capable of overpowering.
Okay.
Hand-to-hand combat. Because he spent his time in the military, so he has all the skills that you would expect out of someone that was trained in the Air Force. Hand-to-hand combat apparently being one of them. He can use weapons, but he generally doesn't, because why would you use a gun if you have the Green Lantern ring? It seems kind of little higher on the scale of strength, I would imagine. And then going along with his skills that he got in the Air Force, and this one actually does come up a fair bit in him, is he's a really good engineer, and he's an ace pilot. So much like Alexi, the Red Guardian, we've got another ace pilot. Welcome to Ace Pilot Month. No, that is not. I do not know enough.
We need more pilots.
Ace pilots. I bet we could do an Ace Pilot Month, but that would take a lot of work.
It would, yeah.
And then he can phase through walls as well. That's a pretty cool thing. I love all characters that can phase through walls.
Like Vision.
Yeah, like Vision. Except he doesn't get stuck halfway through them. Or no, Vision did that to somebody else. Like War Machine or something. I know that
Thanos does it to Bruce Banner when he's in the Hulkbuster in Infinity War.
That might have... Yeah, he like melds him into the mountain.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's so sick. God, that scene is still so cool. Okay, what do you think some of the weaknesses of being the Green Lantern are? And I feel like you know one of these because I think we've joked about it.
See, now that you said I probably know it, I'm blanking because I got nervous that I'm going to get it wrong.
That's fair. Okay, so the first kind of, again, going back to the fact that these are essentially machines, is the rings need to be recharged.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Which is weird, right? But I guess if it's a machine, Iron Man needs his little core thingy. Yeah,
they have to charge it like at these lantern things, right?
Yeah, so you put it in the lantern, and then that's usually when they quote that mantra that I led into at the beginning of it. Not that by lore that's not like 100% essential, but it helps them focus because they need to focus on the ring as they're charging it. It's kind of like it's both mechanical and mystical, the charging process. So it's some mystic in there. Okay. Then this one frequently comes up because I was going back to Sinestro. So rings don't work on the people who made them. And kind of going more into that, like as I was saying, the lanterns all make the rings. So like Sinestro made a bunch of rings, and the rings that Sinestro made can't be used against him. Like you can build in like fail safes that make you immune to it. I don't know if the normal Green Lanterns are like because the Green Lanterns fight each other, so that their rings can interact with each other. But people can build in fail safes so that like, hey, you can't use my own ring against me, which is really intelligent. I wouldn't have thought to do that. I'd be the guy that gets killed by his own ring. That's not a good call, but that's the way I roll.
That's not something to be proud of.
Yeah, right. And then the Speed Force kind of messes up with rings. And for people that are not aware of the Speed Force is essentially what gives the Flash his powers. Yeah, it's kind of like the Force in Star Wars. It's like this mystical scientific midichlorian thing that's constant.
Oh, don't.
I always got to slip in midichlorians.
No, you don't.
Nobody needs midichlorians. Yeah, so it is kind of like the Force, though, in Star Wars, where it's just this force that's constantly ebbing and flowing throughout the universe, and certain people are able to use it, but it, like, I don't know if it's a vibration thing, because, like, the ring obviously uses some sort of, like, vibration frequency, because that's how he can phase through walls using it. Speed Force is basically entirely composed of vibration. That's how people move fast in the DC universe. If people weren't aware of that, I'm sure we'll eventually do a Flash episode, and I'm going to spend like 15 minutes nerding out about the Speed Force and how neat that
probably is.
It's probably my favorite part of all of DC is the Speed Force. So I had to make sure to include that in here because I'm like, dude, I can talk about the Speed Force in a non-Flash episode. It's a win.
True, yeah.
It's a win-win.
It's for you, yeah.
And then this is the last one, and I feel like I was talking to you about this and joking about this. The one I thought you were going to guess is sometimes the rings just don't work on yellow things.
We have joked about that in the past.
Isn't that the most ridiculous thing ever? The Green Lanterns just sometimes don't work on yellow things. And Sinestro's rings are usually yellow. Really weird, right? Like what?
Yeah.
I've yet to have someone sit down and explain. I get why Sinestro's rings wouldn't work on him. I've yet to have somebody sit me down and explain why yellow things sometimes don't get affected by the rings. Because sometimes they do. Sometimes they have no problem punching like yellow walls and stuff, but then sometimes it's just overpowers them.
That's so ridiculous to me.
And then kind of as a side note, this one doesn't come up super often. I don't think it's ever come up in the movies, but there's also red power rings in addition. They're not as popular. The Green Lanterns don't use them. Sinestro doesn't use them, but just occasionally they'll bump into like a third party that uses red rings.
Okay.
Those seem way cooler. And I really like the color green, but like, ugh. A yellow
I like green more than red, so I gotta go with the green one.
Yeah, green's awesome, dude. I'd just project a bunch of trees. Because they'd look right. Well, I guess they'd be all green, so they wouldn't look perfectly right. But they'd look perfectly right.
They would.
Yeah, so I love this guy. His main hero/villain, like I was saying, is Sinestro. Sinestro is an alien Green Lantern who he consistently becomes partners with, enemies with, partners with, enemies with. Like I was saying, Hal was kind of considered a joke by a lot of like the Green Lanterns. So there's been a lot of times where he's lost his privileges to be a Green Lantern, and without fail, every time he loses his job as Green Lantern, Sinestro approaches him. He's like, "Hey, dude, I could recharge a ring for you, or I could build a ring for you, but you gotta You got to help me do something stupid. And then it goes into this whole event of shenanigans of Hal trying to help Sinestro without being a bad guy to get his ring back, to eventually beat Sinestro, and then he finds a way to get in trouble again with the Green Lantern Corps and loses ring, and then Sinestro approaches him. It's happened like 3 or 4 different times in the comic books that he keeps losing his ring, and then Sinestro doesn't learn, and he's like, "Hey, help me with this," and then he gets betrayed, and a whole circle.
Yeah.
They have a beautiful, beautiful relationship, those two. And then as far as kind of day-to-day operations, he is the Earth protector, or the protector of the Earth sector. So he kind of shields us. Usually his job is to shield us from alien attacks. He does do stuff on Earth. He's a member of the Justice League. But first and foremost, he's a member of the Green Lantern Corps, and he's kind of an extraterrestrial protector. Kind of the way that, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. protects Earth from extraterrestrials, or the fact that, like, when an alien comes, the Asgardians come to Earth and protect us from the extraterrestrial threat. Sometimes. Not always, but sometimes.
Yeah,
but that's basically his job, is he's the protector of our little pocket of space to keep us from being negatively affected by aliens. They're kind of like the UN. They're kind of like the UN, I guess.
Well, if the UN protected against aliens.
We don't know that, Doug. Maybe they just do a really good job.
That's true.
Yeah, everybody's like,
You're
the
right.
UN does nothing. And we're like, I haven't been killed by an alien yet. Welcome to Conspiracy Cast.
That would be a fun podcast.
That would be a fun one. Oh my gosh, that'd be a good time. So you, Doug, I'm interested in getting your impressions on the Green Lantern, because I know you've seen him in video game iteration, movie iteration, and possibly animated iteration. I wasn't sure how much you watched, like, the Justice League and stuff when we were younger.
Not too much, but I've seen it.
It's a good time. What's your movie take on this character? I've kind of given you the rundown of, like, all this stuff that he is capable of and has done. How do you feel like these have been iterated upon in popular culture and media?
I'm going to say the animated show, I'm feeling, did a lot better of a job. That 2011 Green Lantern film with Ryan Reynolds, and it was directed by Martin Campbell. It was kind of famously a flop, and
it was like accidentally comical, which is not what you want. You don't really want your movie to be accidentally comical.
Yeah, and it was pretty bad to a point where even Ryan Reynolds has said that he regrets making that movie. He has that scene in Deadpool 2 where he travels through time, and Deadpool kills Ryan Reynolds when Ryan Reynolds is reading the Green Lantern script, being like, "Yes, this is perfect."
God, that's so funny. Oh my God, that's meta.
And so it's kind of like famously bad movie. Friend of the show, Taika Waititi, was in the Green Lantern movie. I don't remember him being in it. I've only seen it the one time, and I'll never see it again. He played Tom Kalmaku.
I think the last time I saw that movie was before I was really, like, aware of Taika Waititi, because, you know, I'm not like the biggest cinema person. Like, now I'm like, I love Taika Waititi. Like, what we do in the shadows is fantastic.
Yeah.
And, like, all of his has he only done one movie in the MCU, or has he done multiple?
Just the one so far. He's doing Thor: Love and Thunder, which is coming out in 2021. But yeah, it was Ryan Reynolds playing Hal Jordan, and the only thing we got out of that movie was Ryan Reynolds met his wife, Blake Lively, while they shot that movie. They got married after the movie.
So it's probably worth it.
But the movie was famously pretty bad. Mark Strong, who's a phenomenal actor, played Sinestro, so that's why I kind of know Sinestro. But we also have other things, like the TV series, which was 2000, I think. I have the date here that I can't find anymore.
I thought that was a great iteration, though. I mean, I'll come back on. Like,
yeah.
I really like the animated version of him, because you do have, it shows him like he is this Earth protector, but it also shows like he's a pretty campy character. Like, there's some negative stuff, but, like, he does goofy stuff. You know, he's kind of like old school Batman, where, like, he might, like, you know, Batman would throw a batarang that blows up into a glove that punches someone in the face, and he does a lot of stuff like that. Like, he'll get these giant oversized comical, you know, like boxing glove kind of things and punch people with them using his little ring power.
Yeah, well, it was the 2001-2004 Green Lantern. We had Jon Stewart as the Green Lantern in that.
He's got a pretty good career.
Yeah, he did He was in that one. We also have, I don't know if you know of this, but there are other like older iterations of the Green Lantern being on screen.
Oh, really? And like animated on screen or live action?
We have anime, but we also have live action.
Really?
Yeah, so in 1979, there were these things called Legends of the Superheroes,
Oh my god, that was probably bad.
where Howard Murphy played the Green Lantern in it, and the role of Sinestro is played by comedian Charlie Callis. I don't know how to say it, but it goes all the way back to 1979 in a live action TV special, which I'm looking at a picture.
Because I couldn't imagine doing him in live action in really before like the 2000s, because like how do you not CGI everything? Like for the haha joke about the Ryan Reynolds CGI suit, but like you gotta CGI a lot of stuff with this character because he makes stuff out of green ring energy.
Yeah, I don't know how they did it. I obviously haven't seen it. There was an unsuccessful TV pilot in the late 1990s, Justice League of America, which included a few different like characters from the Justice
JLA.
League. Apparently, they reference him in Smallville. I never watched Smallville. Seems like a show you would have liked.
I loved Smallville so much. That's gonna be Ben's recommendation for everybody in quarantine right now, is cut out a little time and just watch a little Smallville. It's very like campy, dorky, like late 90s, early 2000s, like oh gosh, like Will and Grace, kind of just like fooling around, you know, coming of age kind of story. It's really good though.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I should check it out.
It's about Superman, for anyone that doesn't know. It's about Superman when he's like in high school.
And then next iteration we have is spoilers. I'm going to say right now, spoilers for the Arrowverse. If you are watching the Arrowverse and not fully caught up, this is a spoiler, so stop listening for like a minute.
I believe this one came out, like 4 months ago, something like that?
Yeah, pretty recent, so
yeah.
If you don't want it, pause for or skip 30 seconds ahead, but I'm going to say it real quick.
DC television shows. If you're unfamiliar with the term Arrowverse, that's Arrow, Flash, all those shows.
Yeah, so skip 30 seconds ahead. I'm going to do it real quick. Right now, in the show Arrow, John Diggle is alluded to being the Green Lantern. In the end of the latest season, he like goes like a crash site, opens something up, and a green light hits him in the face, alluding to him being the Green Lantern in that show. So that's pretty cool.
I would watch that show hand down, because my favorite part of, not my favorite part of the Arrowverse shows, but my favorite part of Arrow is Diggle. That guy's awesome.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And then moving out of spoiler territory, apparently, I did not know this till doing research for this podcast, a live-action Green Lantern TV series is currently in the works for HBO Max.
Oh, man. So, I'm excited about it, because HBO does some, like, they do some good big budget stuff.
Yeah, which should be interesting, which I'm curious to see, because I know they were thinking about doing Green Lantern for the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe films.
Do they have any rumors on like who could possibly play any main characters in that, or
they
like
don't,
no, not yet?
I don't even think they've gotten that far. It
could be a ways out.
Yeah, so far they have a reboot slated called the Green Lantern Corps, which is in development at the DCEU. It's slated to have something for July, but of 2020. Obviously, that's not going to happen.
There's going to be nothing in July of 2020.
Yeah, I mean, this is old. That part is old, but so far there was talk. I mean, even when you watch like the newest Justice League movie, they do like their intro of like the DC intro, and Green Lantern is there, so that kind of makes you assume like is that he would be a part of it. Why would they have him in their big intro before movies if he wasn't going to be a part of it?
And I would think so, because I would consider him in like the top 10 DC heroes as far as like notoriety, and like if you're gonna put together like a DC universe, like it'd be the same as if they had done all the Avengers stuff without Iron Man or Captain America. It's like, oh, how are you like not include those characters? I also will say, just as like a side note to this, he's one of my favorite DC characters. I really, really like the Green Lantern. I'm always a fan of extraterrestrial protector kind of characters in like all the different iterations. I think that's the coolest thing about Superman is it's boring that he's like perfect and everything, but I like that he's this extraterrestrial protector of the planet.
Yeah, and I like Green Lantern. I think Green Lantern's a very, very cool character.
You can do everything with them.
Yeah.
You know, like
Exactly.
you can put him in any situation, and there's a million ways to come out of it. And I think that is really fun for people to get to work with. Like, if you're going to be a writer for the Green Lantern, it's like, well, how's he going to get out of the situation? It's like, well, we can have him do whatever we want. Like, he could bust through a wall, he could phase through a wall, you know, he could fly a plane out of there, he could call in Green Lantern help. Like, he's got so many different ways that he can approach a situation, and I love those. Like, that's why Batman's so cool and so popular. Is he's got a billion different things to tackle every situation, so you never really know what's going to come out of him. And I think that allows the writers to really spread their wings and create something really special.
Yeah, I think the thing about him as a character is I think he works very well for comic books. I think they haven't really figured out an on-screen adaptation that works, because I think there are things that are very, very cool on paper that don't translate well to physically being on screen. I mean, proof in 2011 with Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern.
Yeah, there's always some stuff that's going to be just kind of awkward.
Yeah, some things just don't work perfectly or translate perfectly. And I think that if they're going to do this again, this character again, which I think they should, I think they could do a really good job, would be just to, I think, try and make it less cheesy. And I mean, CGI is in a better place than 2011. I mean, that was the biggest criticism of the 2011 film, was the CGI elements were so heavy, but they weren't very good yet. And even then, I think they were
talking about, like, earlier with, like, his kind of the weird traits about him, where they're like, oh, like, the Speed Force, like, don't get into the Speed Force in the movie, like, don't add that barrel of trouble there, like, don't make a yellow thing, don't make it that his ring is weak to yellow, like, just ignore the really weird stuff about the character and just focus on, like, the core tenets of what he's doing. Like, I'd love, like, training situation with the Green Lantern Corps and then come back to Earth and tackle somebody that's attacking the Earth. Like, it could be, like, a pretty straightforward one, but, like, it's gonna immediately get bogged down as soon as, like, he fights an enemy that has yellow armor. He's like, I can't attack him. It's like, dude, you didn't need to bring that up. Like,
I think it either has to be ignore that kind of thing or lean into it. I mean, Ant-Man could very easily not have translated well to screen, but they leaned into the ridiculousness of it by having the scene of, like, the toy train falling over when they're fighting, like, showing you the fight from, like, the outside and how ridiculous it looks, and kind of leaning into that kind of thing. And I think that's what they would have to do. Is
they could pull that off. Ant-Man's a great example of them leaning into the ridiculous side of the character.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what they would have to do. Either get rid of some of those aspects and not mention them, or lean into them and make them funny and add into it in a way that's, like, well done. I mean, I don't know Martin Campbell as a director. Like I said, he directed 2011. I don't know a whole lot of his work. He can't, except for, like, Casino Royale. He directed Casino Royale, which is
pretty good.
Yeah, he directed a lot of Bonds. He did Casino Royale. He did GoldenEye. So, like, he's done some really, really good work. But, like,
wow, what a large spread on Bond movies.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been that DC or Warner Brothers was putting a hand into the movie and that he didn't have a whole lot of say. That happens a lot.
I would not be surprised by that.
Yeah, there could have been a lot that went wrong in production, but I mean, I think they'd have to get a director who has a good mix of, like, funny and dark, because I think that's kind of what you need. Is you need that funny and that darkness kind of combined into, like, a really funny. I think that's what you need to make a good Green Lantern movie.
I think what makes it the hardest for me to imagine is, like, Ryan Reynolds seems like the perfect Green Lantern to me. Like, he seems like he's perfectly cast, and there were so many other issues with that. And there's obviously no way in heck we get him back for this role.
Oh, no.
I also had a second fun note about a Deadpool trivia. Is there's another time that they make fun of the Green Lantern in Deadpool 1, right when he's getting, like, put under in the testing facility. He, like, grabs the guy's arm and he's like, just listen, the suit, please don't make it green. And I thought that one, oh my God, that makes me laugh every time he says it. Because it's one of those that went over a lot of people's heads. But me, I sat there and I wanted to start crying in the movie theater. I was like, that's, like, the most ridiculous comment. Because it's so meta.
He said something like, don't make the suit green or animated.
Oh gosh, that was a good one.
Yeah.
So, as I like to do every episode, and like I say, the healthiest thing we can do is compare everything and everyone to everything and everyone. I'm going to try and convince you of who I'm about to compare this character to. Because I think at first, it sounds like a crazy thing to say. I think this character reminds me a lot of Ghost Rider.
Okay, well, wait, I have another comparison, but I want you to explain to me why Ghost Rider.
Okay, so let's start off with their origin story. So, their fathers were both, I'm going to call them engineer-esque people. Ghost Rider's father worked on his own bike, was a stunt pilot, or stunt rider. Green Lantern's father was a test pilot and worked on his own planes for the U.S. military. Or U.S. Air Force, rather. So, a little different, but a little similar. They were both top of their field. Crash was a fantastic motorcycle rider.
Still ridiculous that his name is Crash to me.
Yeah, you're just asking for trouble. And Hal's dad was one of the best. Hal's dad and Hal himself are two of the best test pilots for the U.S. Air Force. Third thing leading into this is that they're both jobs, not individual people. So, like we said in the Ghost Rider episode, and as we've said in the Green Lantern one, Ghost Rider and Green Lantern aren't one person. They're a job that you serve. And those jobs are to protect Earth from non-traditional bad guys, I'll say. So Ghost Rider keeps us safe from demons and hell spawns and things like that. And Green Lantern keeps us safe from aliens and mystic forces. So I get that they're not exactly the same, but as I started lining this up, this is where we're going back to Conspiracy Cast. There's a lot of weird similarities between these two characters. Obviously, the other thing is when their powers activate, that's what makes their outfit. That's another thing. But that's probably a lot of superheroes. So that one I think is more of a reach. But as I started looking at these characters, a lot of weird similarities. Oh, and one's red and one's green.
Yeah. See, I made a different comparison in my head after you were talking about it. Was Captain Marvel.
That is not a bad comparison at all. Yeah, Captain Marvel uses similar kind of energies as well.
But both pilots from Earth who were taken and put into a situation of an alien group.
Well, and not only just pilots, but they're both test pilots.
Yeah. Put into this alien situation and then go back to Earth to be the defender of Earth from alien invasions.
Oh, dang. That's a way better comparison than mine. Yeah. And they're also, one doesn't burn people's eyes out and burn their soul.
No, not at all. Neither of them do that.
Okay, I think I might concede the point. I think your comparison might have been a little better than mine.
Thank you.
And they're both cool and glowy.
That's true. They
Captain
are both
Marvel and
cool
Green
and
Lantern.
glowy.
Those are the best heroes, are the cool and glowy ones.
All right, do you want to step into the beer now?
Yeah, let's talk about our little bit of beer. Just so people understand why we picked this one, I don't know if you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, but it is a green labeled beer.
Yeah, the can is green. It's hard right now to find these things in this time that we're living in. It's hard.
Yeah, I appreciate that people are bearing with us. It is not an easy time to go. Obviously, like a lot of microbreweries and stuff that we normally go search for these things that are closed, so we're having to be a little more creative with choosing beers. But you know what? I think the benefit of that is this is a beer that most people can get their hands on. So if anybody gets interested in it, give it a shot,
Yeah, you can get this most places. I think you can get it even on the Sierra Nevada website. I think most grocery stores. But I will say it is a pretty good beer. It's a good, for a generic IPA or a generic IPA. It's a pretty solid beer. It's got Cascade hops. I don't know a lot about Cascade hops, but it's also, let's see, I have the information right in front of me in a little window. So it's 5.6 alcohol by volume. So I'd say kind of low.
Low for an IPA.
Yeah, for what we usually do, because we're monsters and everything is usually above 10.
Yeah, our IPAs tend to be more in that 10 to 12 range.
But it's a good beer. I mean, I like it. We're not drinking it right now. It's kind of hard to get, but we've both had it, so we can actually talk on it. I like it a lot for a grocery
store IPA.
Yeah, which I don't say that as a bad thing. I drink a lot of grocery stores IPAs. I think they're really good beer, and it's a lot more accessible. It's hard to always go to a microbrewery and get something that's made that way. But Sierra Nevada is a good brewing company. I think they remind me a lot of Ballast Point, where you can kind of get it a lot of places. It's kind of a generic, not a big name beer company, but they're also good beer.
Kind of like Firestone.
Yeah, or a Firestone or something like that.
Firestone. Yeah, I like it. It is. If I were to knock it on anything, I think it's a tiny bit too bitey. Like, you know, that kind of like crystally flavor that's in IPAs.
Yeah.
I think it could use like a hint of something fruity in there. That being said, I'm not as big of an IPA drinker as some people, so some people might be like all about that. But it's pretty darn solid. Again, I maybe will start experimenting. Squeeze a little bit of orange or something in there. That's probably so offensive to the beer maker. Be like, listen, let me tell you about how to make beer. let me tell you, Sierra Nevada, put up that alcohol percentage by like 5% and then squeeze an orange in it, and that'll fix all your problems.
I'll fix everything.
Fix you right up, Captain.
So I think I'm going to ask this time, how many comicallys are you going to give Green Lantern?
As a character, like I was saying, I like him a lot. I'm going to give him a solid 8.75 out of 10. And I'm going to give the movie from 2011 both simultaneously a 4 out of 10 and an 8.5 out of 10. A 4 out of 10 for the movie and an 8.5 out of 10 for the fact that I love Ryan Reynolds. Which the fact that I love Ryan Reynolds should make that 4.5 even lower. It was not great. It was not a great movie.
It is not a good movie.
But I love the character. And I am very excited to see where we go from here. If we get what you were talking about earlier in the spoiler section, if we get that to be an iteration, oh my God, I'd love it.
Yeah, I would watch that.
Yeah. How about you, Doug? How many comicallys do you give this character?
I'd give the character, as a comic book character, an 8. I give the movie a 3.
That's a solid rating right there.
I would say, like, I want to see what they do next. I think that a lot could be done with this character, something really, really cool. And I'm going to give the idea of what they could do with Green Lantern another 8.
Yeah, it could be very good or very bad, but I have hope.
Yes.
I have hope. As long as it's not Suicide Squad.
Oh, no, I don't think they do that.
Yeah, no, I think they've thoroughly learned.
I think they learned from their mistakes. Well, I don't know, maybe they didn't.
Well, I think they've learned to not do like Suicide Squad level of bad. They've learned to be above that.
They're doing Suicide Squad again, so we'll see.
Dude, can we talk about, just for like 1 second, what a double down that is for DC? That's like the most salty run back I've ever seen. It's just like, all right, well, they didn't like it, we're remaking it. It's like, that quickly, huh? All right.
But I think they did a better job of sitting back and saying, who could do a good job? And then they got James Gunn, who could do a fantastic job. And I think they gave him a lot more control instead of the studio. Because when when Suicide Squad was coming out, it was a very dark, rated R movie. And then back to Ryan Reynolds, the studio saw Deadpool and said, we need to make this more fun. People like fun. So then they went back, reshot, made it PG-13, and it was a bad movie. So I think learning from that mistake, giving James Gunn full reign to make, I'm assuming, a rated R Suicide Squad should be pretty good. We'll see.
I got faith.
Me too.
Here we go. All right, so I think that's pretty much it for us and the Green Lantern. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Thanks for listening to us yet again. As always, we're welcome to input, additional questions, kind of whatever you're feeling. Doug, you want to send us off?
Yeah, don't forget to follow us on Twitter or Instagram at comicallypod. And just, be safe out there. It's a crazy world.
Yeah, stay safe, everybody.
This has been Comically Incompetent. I'm Doug.
And I'm Ben.
And we'll see you guys later.
Bye.